One of these films was considered the most celebrated adaptation of the literary figure Fu Manchu, cementing Boris Karloff as the definitive version of this fiendish villain. The other film was not so much a remake, but a revival of the character. It is also part of Christopher Lee's apparent obsession with reprising every single role Karloff ever bloody played.
Come, Mr. Karloff. Anything you can do, I can do better.
But which is the best? Fu Manchu was the recurring villain in author Sax Rohmer's long-running series of stories. Fu and his heroic nemesis Nayland Smith became beloved characters and brought Sax Rohmer great success, putting his younger brother Trumpet to shame. Profiteering off the whole yellow peril paranoia, Sax wrote 13 of these novels before he died, rather fittingly, from the Asian flu. Just as the stories were often serialized in magazines, they were first adapted as serials for the big screen, before a set of films starring Warner Oland were produced from 1929 through 1931.
You have lost your chance to save your sweetheart from death.
It was in 1932, however, that Fu Manchu's most respected adaptation was released, The Mask of Fu Manchu. It replaced Oland with Karloff, fresh off his breakout performance in Frankenstein, and proved to be a moderate hit for MGM. The Mask of Fu Manchu sees Nayland Smith on a quest to find the tomb of Genghis Khan, before Fu Manchu does. So the legend goes, buried within the tomb is a mystical mask and a mystical sword that could be utilised as terribly destructive weapons, should they fall into the wrong hands. The stakes are explained clearly, if a little boringly. Nayland thinks the mask belongs in a museum. Fu thinks it belongs on his face. Nayland basically tricks a guy into going on this mission for him.
You love your country?
Oh, yes. All through the war and the Depression and the high taxes and the low rent. I shall never love another.
Well, Arnold, the British government is asking you to risk your life again.
Oh, very well.
All right, then.
You do love your country, don't you? Yes. You would do anything for your country, yes? Good. Fucking die for it, then. This man, Barton, sets off on his quest, but makes it about 5 steps before he is kidnapped by Manchu's manservants. Gratefully, it isn't long before we also get our introduction to Karloff's shady baddie, just as the composer trips over a drum kit. With his unmistakable voice seeping out from under that terrific makeup, Karloff instantly breathes life into the picture.
I am a doctor of philosophy from Edinburgh. I'm a doctor of law from Christ College. I'm a doctor of medicine from Harvard. My friends, out of courtesy, call me doctor.
Oh. What do we make of this figure? He monologues about how he was educated in the best colleges across the Western world.
Edinburgh, Christ College, Harvard.
Oh.
And indeed, he presents an air of authority, and maybe even respect. However, moments later, he is offering up his own daughter to this man in exchange for the location of the tomb. Not cool, Fu. Not cool at all.
What the fuck did I do wrong?
Nah, he just really despises that girl.
I am the most unfortunate of men. I have no son to follow me. Therefore, in shame, I ask you to receive a message from my ugly and insignificant daughter.
Jesus, man, bring it down a notch. She's right there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please wait a moment while my obese cow of a daughter, who incidentally smells like rotting cabbage and is really shit at Scrabble, makes an incredibly crap speech about something or other. Did I mention the cabbage? Barton is a true lad. He won't give up the info, even when submitted to some serious bell torture. Ooh, Yeah, Fu straps the guy under a giant bell, letting his eardrums go to rot. Pretty creative, pretty gnarly. On the other side of the world, Nayland sits about enjoying himself, while this man he sent off in his stead is tortured to death. Barton's daughter, who is the very definition of overacting,
His cruelties, unspeakable tortures, not only will kill him, I know.
and her fiancé, the very definition of bland young 1930s hero man,
She's right, sir.
Shut your mouth!
strive to uncover the tomb instead. The rest of the plot unfolds as the tomb is found and the two sides attempt to keep hold of the powerful treasure. A lot of the classic adventure tropes you're looking for can be found in the Mask of Fu Manchu. Booby traps, spiky death machines, archaeological digs, a good old-fashioned whipping,
Faster! Faster!
snakes and spiders and crocodillos, and this curious little fellow. There is of course also a hefty amount of racism. The film is 90 years old, so it's not really a surprise. Yet the casual racism against Asians seems to be holding the film together more than the actual plot. Repeated remarks are made against the villain. "You hideous yellow monster" springs to mind.
You hideous yellow monster!
Fu himself is depicted as an unnatural human being, with his only passions in life being the murder of white men and the ruling of their women.
It will be your honor to be the first white martyrs to perish at the hands of the new Genghis Khan. I'll wipe them and the whole accursed white race off the face of the earth when I get the sword and mask that will call the teeming millions of Asia to the uprising. Yes, this is only the beginning. I will wipe out your whole accursed white race.
Oh no!
The henchmen are a little weird too, displaying some of the most ungraceful wire work you will ever damn see. Setting the villains aside, in general the good guys are all bluntly dismissive of the culture and faiths.
And they believe in a bauble like that? Will we ever understand these Eastern races?
You want to pray here? Fuck that, guns out, boys! Of course, an opium den makes an appearance too, but the worst offence comes in the very final scene. Now, it isn't really a spoiler to say that the good guys succeed in this 1932 adventure film. Naturally, they defeat Fu Manchu and recover Genghis Khan's treasure. On the boat ride home, just as Nayland is about to give the artifacts a burial at sea, a gong hit suddenly freezes their blood cold.
Did you hear it?
Oh no, Fu is back for one last stab of revenge? No, it's just this Chinese man announcing that dinner is served.
Dinner is served. Dinner is served.
You aren't by any chance the doctor of philosophy? Law? Medicine?
I don't think so, sir.
Hello, good man. Are you at all educated? No? You are subservient? Yes? You are nothing more than comic relief played at your expense?
Oh, yes, very sure.
I congratulate you.
Wow, Nayland, you're a Genghis cunt. The yellow face is a shame, because I do think Boris Karloff gives a wonderful performance here, otherwise. He's like a Saturday morning cartoon come to life. Every line is delivered with relish, whether he is torturing a poor guy with salt water and bell bashing.
I forgot to tell you, it was soft.
Or ushering a command or two.
See that he is quite comfortable for the present.
His motivations are plain, and he's easy to root against. Though I wouldn't mind coming over to his place for dinner. I really got to try those electrified drinks. Shocking. Yes, this electric device gets more action in 1 hour than his ugly, insignificant daughter will ever get. It's perfect for audiences who like listening to the sound of a slightly faulty hair trimmer.
7, 7, 7.
It also leads to one of cinema's greatest contrivances. How do we defeat the villain? Just open up this very convenient hole in the floor, where the bad guys just happen to be sitting underneath, and shock them all to smithereens. Fu's defeat is rushed over, much like everything else really in this tight 65-minute runtime. Karloff could have easily returned for more adventures, though behind-the-scenes mutterings imply he wasn't really the biggest fan himself. Instead, the good guys say,
There may be other Fu Manchus in the future.
funny you should say that. The Face of Fu Manchu arrived in 1965, many decades after Karloff's feature, and a relative drought that faced the series afterwards. Although it was released with the same title, The Mask of Fu Manchu, in many territories including France and West Germany, Face is its own story. It opens in strong style, with Fu Manchu brought to justice by Nayland Smith. He is led out to the place of his execution. The tension is already on point. The accidental drum kit soundtrack has been replaced with the sound of a plumber fixing the pipes next door. You keep expecting Fu Manchu's men to stage a rescue, but it never comes. So the sword comes down. Oh, I think you looked at the camera there for a second, mate. Mate, you're still looking. Can we start again? No? One take? Whatever. In a moment of poignancy, the crowd departs while Nayland waits and watches until he is satisfied that Christopher Lee's head won't sprout little legs like the Thing and bugger off to a Tibetan tea house.
Come, Mr. Waitress. The spider requires a cup of tea.
Sometime later, back in London, Nayland and his cronies are facing a major crime wave. After evidence hints towards an Asian influence, Nayland starts to believe Fu Manchu is still alive, orchestrating this entire drama. He is correct, of course, but it's fun to see him acting a little paranoid and cuckoo. Through some deep investigating and Sherlock Holmesing around London, Nayland and the boys discover a plot that involves rare poppy seeds from Tibet, which, if handled correctly, can lay waste to vast populations with incredible, terrifying ease.
Don't be frightened, Maria. This particular sample is absolutely harmless. Look.
It's a more realistic plot on the whole. Yes, there are still mystical poppy seeds, but it's a damn sight closer to home than magical swords and masks. The stakes are clearer, and the threat seems more real because of it, even if you don't believe this mass murder will ever come to pass. You're wrong! Fu Manchu wipes out an entire fucking village in Essex. Men, women, children, horse, dog. Everything is dead. And again, it's only Essex. Christopher Lee is a more credible threat. He still dons some luxurious threads and has a wispy, waxy moustache under his beak, but, and this is going to be a controversial statement, he really knows how to act. Whew, don't burn your fingers on that hot take. He's not fucking around, clearly, massacring entire villages, taking gleeful delight in drowning people.
You will strike your hand against the wall.
But, you know what though? He has a softer side. He cares about me and wants to know how I'm doing.
What progress has been made?
None, Master. He does nothing but sit around all day.
Oh, fuck you guys, what do you know? What sets this film apart from the previous film is not the villain, but the heroes. These aging upper-class Brits are men of education, tradition, and formality. But they aren't afraid to engage in fisticuffs.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Oh, yes. In the Orient?
In fact, I think they've got some deep-seated anger issues. Every other scene, they are neck-chopping and knuckle-banging their way across the globe. I bet these lads pinch off a long week of monotone meetings about rare flowers and tax laws by heading down to the local Weatherspoons and glassing a random Chinese guy in the throat. They are so blinded by their bloodlust that they get into a brutal 5-minute long punch-up before they realise they're fighting each other and that they're on the same bloody team.
Oh, it's you.
The side point here is that this is a surprisingly action-packed adventure, with the frequent brawling and daring rescues. But that's not the best explosion I've ever seen. It could have been a whoa, shit. Action aside, the investigating and intrigue is superior to the previous film too. Where that film laid out every story and character detail literally in the opening scenes, here Nayland has a lot more digging to do.
He's cruel, callous, brilliant, and the most evil and dangerous man in the world.
He has plans to figure out, plans to foil. Who would have thought that this would make for a more exciting movie? It's a decent blend of Sherlock and 60s Bond. Just don't tell producer Harry Towers that. He resented the comparison to a certain British agent, calling the series gimmicky. Well, Christopher Lee would go on to star as a Bond villain who brings both Tabasco and furred nipples to the table. Is that gimmicky enough for you, Harry?
Exact! Tabasco!
Lee and Towers made 4 more of these Fu Manchu films. Full disclosure, I haven't seen the others,
Hey, this guy's a great big phony!
but besides the second film, by all accounts I'm not missing much. For now, if you want to watch a load of stuffy old Englishmen tearing up London brick by brick, victim by victim, The Face of Fu Manchu is an entertaining watch. Over the hills and onto the verdicts we go. Best cast. The Mask of Fu Manchu's cast is little more than dishwater. Karloff is Karloff, and Myrna Loy is good as the evil, disrespected daughter, but otherwise, no thanks. Karen Morley's overacting is grating, and the younger hero feels like typical American studio interference. What's that you say? Our hero is an old British guy? Nonsense. Bring in some boring young buck. Face of Fu Manchu takes this one easily. And that leads me to... Best Fu. Karloff is unmistakably the best thing about his film. Whenever he's off screen, feel free to get in a quick power nap. While he lacks the greater threat of Lee's version, I think that, performance-wise, Karloff just about takes the kick. Best kill. Maybe this is cheating, as it's not an individual kill, but Lee's villain wiping out 3,000 people in one quick move is pretty unbeatable. Best film. The Face of Fu Manchu is a more consistently enjoyable film that actually requires the audience to follow along. For me, Face takes the win. What are your thoughts on these 2 films? And indeed, any other Fu Manchu adaptations? Are you a fan, or do you think they are phooey?